the fact that midband simply cannot hold up as it's currently constitutes the networking landscape?
So a couple things. There have been, so since yesterday, I've been reaching out to my contacts. Reiterated in several other podcasts before this one that T-Mobile did a business case regarding millimeter wave. Would they deploy millimeter wave? Yes. Would they utilize millimeter wave to do a similar fixed home wireless setup like Verizon? Potentially, if it's necessary. But are they going to do what we envisioned, which is every light pole or every couple light poles, etc.? No, of course not. I also reached out to some contacts regarding, what are the DAS plans that are being upgraded regarding venues for the World Cup. And it's shocking to hear that millimeter wave is not being on the roadmap for the World Cup 2026. Instead, it's all in on C-band.
What carrier is this? Who are you talking to? Who are you speaking for?
I'm talking about neutral DAS host providers.
So they're not going to. So you're saying your source is telling you they're not going to support millimeter wave at all at these neutral DAS sites.
There's no millimeter wave expansion, which that to me means a lot. Because keep in mind, it's not that it's dead. For that's not what they're saying. There's zero expansion.
Yeah, so I can clarify some confusion on this. So if we take a look at the C-band rollout, right? Okay, that has just been as fast, if not surpassed, the millimeter wave build. Okay, so you have to ask yourself why is that? There's a couple of reasons. One, because your signal travels farther. Okay, it is actually a cheaper antenna and radio system to put up. That's the second point. And the third point is the millimeter wave, even though Verizon has been deploying it the most, it's kind of at a capacity type basis, meaning at stadiums, concerts, and what have you. And it's a lot easier to. They actually found out that your small cells, okay, will work. You get a lot more network efficiencies by running C-band on it. Okay, and this is all. If you take all these factors into consideration, this is again, I can see why Apple doing this kind of makes sense. Your C-band is just a lot more efficient. Now, I could see also, maybe I could see this happening as well. Maybe they'll get serious when 6G, when terahertz comes out. Maybe they realize, okay, maybe 5G is just the millimeter wave is just a stopgap. Maybe go a full-blown terahertz. Maybe when that time comes, I don't know. But for right now, it's just too expensive. The range is not where they want, and it's just not that cost effective. It's very expensive to deploy millimeter wave.
Can we just be honest for a second? Okay, yes, it's expensive to deploy millimeter wave, but how many people are carrying their iPad to the places where millimeter wave is deployed at scale? Who carried their iPad to the Super Bowl? Like, guys, we're overthinking this, trying to just scale it back for a minute. People aren't carrying their iPads to the places where you get the most bang for your buck for millimeter wave. So it makes perfect sense for Apple to reduce cost by not putting a expensive, antenna into their iPad when it's not going to the places where millimeter wave is at scale. So I mean,
that's a good point too. Yeah, you're right.
It just doesn't. But that doesn't mean millimeter wave is dead. All this grandstanding, it's just not true. You mean to tell me terahertz frequency, which is a higher frequency than where millimeter wave is,
right,
is gonna millimeter wave is a stop? That doesn't even make sense, guys.
No. What I'm saying is that for 6G, I'm saying this very simply. For 6G, for the AR, VR, millimeter wave ain't gonna cut it. You need that terahertz frequency. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's true, but that doesn't mean millimeter wave is done. And
It's
that's
just
what I'm.
it's like the
It's not
it's like the LTE to a 6G is what I'm trying to say, in my opinion, and that's
okay.
exactly what everybody else is saying.
So I respect that premise. What I
Mhm.
am attacking is the narrative that millimeter wave is somehow toast and no longer going to be deployed because there's no value. That is a farce. Now it may be true. Let me rephrase. That's not a industry, declarative statement. That may be the case for some carriers, and that's fine. To the point of example being T-Mobile, of course, the capital light company isn't going to invest heavily in millimeter wave. It's expensive, and they can't afford it. Clearly, so of course they're not going to put it on light poles every other pole. Of course they're not. They can't afford to do that. But to the companies that do have the money, there's two. One of them has shown consistent commitment to network excellence. The other one is still trying to rev itself up, and that's fine. I respect that. But I mean, come on, man.
I
The
think,
iPads
and
aren't
this
going
was
to the places where millimeter wave is deployed at scale right now. So it makes
here.
sense for Apple to try to save money.
Here's what
Yeah,
I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. This is what I said at the very beginning. I don't equate the iPad Pro dropping millimeter wave support as an indication that the iPhone will also drop millimeter wave support. I don't do
It
that.
won't. It won't.
I understand. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that that is the logic. I don't think that's the deductive reasoning steps. That doesn't make sense to me. In fact, to be honest with you, iPhone not having millimeter wave support makes absolutely no sense because the people who go to large venue events and want their phones to work, they usually have iPhones.
Exactly, Sneed. And they usually browsing customers.
These are affluent individuals going to NFL games where ticket prices start at several hundreds of dollars and end at several thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Well, so I've heard both sides of the story in terms of the removal of it. I had someone tell me that, like, yes, it's bad they removed it, but what's millimeter wave in terms of function that C-band can't do? But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, they removed something you used to get. Now, the iPad Air never had millimeter wave. The iPad Mini never had millimeter wave. The cheap one you give a kid to watch, like YouTube Kids, that never has millimeter wave because it's a pro feature. It's really something that the pro user who's buying the iPad Pro is going to. So basically, I don't like that they removed it. I understand that most people won't use it. I understand that it's not as economically viable for the carriers to build out. But it's also giving me the same feelings of AT&T when they lowered their QCI values and then are selling it back to you with turbo.